Hi, this is Salil Mehta of the Salil Statistics website, also author of Colors and Numbers and Statistics Topics. I'm going to talk about a recent public shooting that my family and I survived, and and I'm very appreciative of the generous outpouring of people concerned and wanting to know more information about this. And it lends very nicely to the number of statistics topics I've analyzed in recent years. In fact, the very first video on this YouTube channel concerned a mass shooting at that time out of Las Vegas, and we've had something that was predicted then, which is just an increased number of shooting events on a year-to-year basis and an increased number of deaths per shooting. So you're basically getting these record numbers of mass shooting deaths year by year. And even if you sort of tweak the definition, which we'll talk about, there's no sort of confusion about that these numbers are growing at an alarming rate in a number of different environments. For this particular weekend, I was at a short family vacation between the Dover beaches and Brandywine. I was at a very upscale mall, one of the nicest in a 100-mile radius of Delaware, getting my daughter a sweater. It was a little cold outside, and as we were leaving, this unfolded. And sort of in the information that sort of come to light in a couple of days afterwards, this would fall outside my very strict definition when I look at 7 different data sets for mass shootings, and I clean the data and I sort of analyze it. I look at 4 or more deaths, which could include the shooter, to qualify as a mass shooting, and that helps me quickly differentiate between that and things that could otherwise perhaps be something that was an indiscriminate public shooting or a smaller domestic event or an accident along those lines. And it doesn't mean that it can't actually be a mass shooting. It's just a quick way of slicing through a volume of data in a very fair way. It's roughly 2-to-1 ratio of the number of people shot and injured versus the number of people who die. And that ratio goes up with fewer deaths in a particular event. And so this is an ocean of information that's been truncated, and I do want to sort of explore in the future anyway, because a lot of what happens at events can come down to luck. Luck on either the side of the survivor or the shooter. And it's generally the shooter who stops at his or her own discretion. The weapon malfunctions, they get tired, they run, they commit suicide, and so forth. And what happens in between is between how the bullets sort of graze the body, are there EMTs nearby, and things along those lines. So an example of that is you had the Wake Forest shootings last year, which had half as many deaths as what we saw in the Villavati school shooting, but yet 3 times as many people who were shot and injured. And so they were both horrific events to sort of come out of. The feelings out of this are much more acute, having a little girl with us, and you deal with this as a unit, and it's something that I don't feel necessarily good about, sort of the way in which the weapons are out there, and they serve a purpose which has probably caused the country to move in a direction that's not very tenable. There will be a reckoning at some point. You'll see the 100-person death shooting, which will sort of be a reckoning. We've seen that in the last 10 years in a number of places with smaller populations. We saw in Peshawar, for example, we saw in Paris. But it could be in other ways. Just the cancer simply changes the personality of the country and renders it in some way unrecognizable, because the various people across the country are sort of very adamant in sort of not changing what needs to be changed. And the other sort of aspect of this is that as individuals, I've always thought it's important to stay close to the data, stay optimistic that change can happen, and that one should be friendly and engage with people. Nothing productive happens, I believe, in shutting down arguments, and often there's glimmers of information and misinformation sort of floating around, and being able to learn from it is extremely, I think, healthy. And the other thing is to not be overly absorbed and sort of live in a way that's obsessed with any one specific risk. For most people, the mental and physical risks that they need to sort of grapple with are just many more beyond this particular type of of event which I analyze. Hug your kids, hug your family, be safe, and hopefully these remain in the realm of statistics and it's not something you have to personally experience. See you next time. Bye.